Hello and welcome to InSight. I'm Wendy Brokaw.
And I'm Louise VanNatta.
We are talking today with three women who know an awful lot about what it takes to get an education in America if you are a woman, especially in an era where we think that an education is just kind of a given. Well, it wasn't always that way. We're talking to women from the AAUW. Would you like to tell us what that is and how you got started? Because this was a long time ago that you began.
We began in 1881, and we are known as the American Association of University Women. Our first project was to dispel the notion of one of the prominent Boston physicians who said that it was detrimental to the health of women to go to university.
Let me see if I have this right. Detrimental to, I'm sorry, this was a health issue?
Yeah. Yeah.
Taken seriously?
It made us weaker, specifically our uterus.
Let's lay it out there.
Yeah, right. So that we should not go to college because it damaged our health.
And we want to make sure the ladies introduce themselves too.
Would you
we
I'm so
we
excited
jumped
about
right
what you're
into
talking
the
about.
yeah.
Let's write in this. Let's begin with you. Let's begin. Your name is
I'm Joanne Stern.
And what is your role with the AAUW?
I've had various roles. Right now, I am the bylaws chair for the state of Oregon.
Oh my, okay.
Great.
Dolores.
My name is Dolores Molnarczyk, and I am a co-president of the Salem branch of AAUW, and I've been a member of the Salem branch for 20 years.
Great.
Wonderful. And Gloria Holland.
I'm
Hi.
Gloria Holland, and I'm past state secretary of AAUW and local branch secretary as well. And lately, I've just kind of been the playwright and director.
And you wrote something, and I just want, first of all, tell us what you wrote and why.
Okay, the title is Breaking Through Barriers, the Suffrage Movement in America.
Oh, wow.
It starts in 1848 at Seneca Falls Convention when Elizabeth Cady Stanton laid out the Declaration of Sentiments that was the foundation of the suffrage movement in America. And it goes through 1920 when the 19th Amendment was passed, which gave women in this country finally the right to vote. And we focus on 11 fairly well-noted women who were very, very prominent in the suffrage movement. Including Abigail Scott Duniway, Susan B. Anthony, Lucretia Mott, Sojourner Truth, Carrie Chapman Catt, Alice Paul, and Lucy Burns, Lucy Stone, people like that. So
Wonderful.
And it's a reader's theater, so you know it has been a challenge because the ladies who are in it are AAUW members who have not had a lot, or in some cases, any theatrical experience. And so they have been able to stretch, and we have, you know, really presented a story that, that needs to be told, you know, because a lot of people take for granted that women, everybody can just vote, and in fact...
Well, the farther we're getting away from that year, where fewer and fewer people were alive during that time, we forget.
And they
it's
don't
really
remember
important
that
to-
people actually were jailed and
Absolutely.
Force-fed.
forced-fed.
Yeah.
Beaten.
Yeah, and beaten.
And there were some people who actually lost their lives.
I'd like to ask you, Dolores, what roles do you play?
I play Lucretia Mott, who is a abolitionist, a Quaker abolitionist, and trying to abolish slavery. And I also was a narrator of different parts.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. And Joanne, what do you
I
play?
have two roles. I am Sojourner Truth, who was a slave, but not from the South. She was from Maryland, and her first language was Dutch.
I didn't know that.
So she's a black woman and has some pithy things to say. That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. No one ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I've plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I've borne 13 children and seen most all sold off into slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman?
Why? Why did you decide to write this? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, but you know, you have a theater background.
Why did I decide to write it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give a plug. I read The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd, and it was based on the true story of Sarah and Angelina Grimke, who were white daughters of slave owners in South Carolina. And then I sat down with a group of women to figure out what this play, you know, what are we going to do for this play this year? And kind of started there, and we said, well, let's do suffrage. So we started, you know, listing women who we could highlight, and I became so excited about it that, you know, I did a lot of research and came up with these, you know, women who were really fundamental to the movement.
It would be as wise to set up an accomplished lawyer to saw wood as a business as to condemn an educated and sensible woman to spend all her time boiling potatoes and patching old garments.
I have preached in Negro parishes, organized abolitionist fairs and fundraising campaigns, and I have not been permitted to speak to mixed crowds of men and women.
From 1868 to 1870, the 14th and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution provided voting rights for freed male slaves and equal rights without regard to color, while pointedly neglecting the issue of sex. Women still were not allowed to vote.
I have been arrested many times, and on one occasion I was sent to the Occoquan workhouse, where I was beaten, tied up, and force-fed as the guards held me down and shoved a tube up my nose. This unconscionable evening, in which many women were beaten and victimized, has become known as the Night of Terror.
I was in poor health and could not give speeches. However, in October, the suffragist organizers held a well-publicized birthday banquet in my honor, and I attended in a wheelchair. On Election Day in November 1912, the woman's suffrage amendment finally passed. The county clerk brought the voter registration book to my home so that I could be the first woman to register to vote in Multnomah County. And I voted in the 1914 Oregon election.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for helping the Oregon women. Thank you so much.
And you've seen it performed. You've been in performance. What has been the reaction from people? Do they come up to you afterwards and say anything? I mean, you feel the energy in the room when you're performing.
Yeah.
Who wants to address that?
Well, our last performance was for our state convention, AAUW state convention. And so the response was just amazing. They laughed, they applauded, they got it. Mm-hmm. And so it was just really thrilling to have been able to bring that to the group.
Overwhelming to me.
What do they get, your audience? What is it that they get, and especially why do you want them to get that?
Empowered. I feel that when we present this story of these women who sacrifice so much, that the people who see the play feel empowered to go out and use their own powers for positive changes.
And when they get energized like that, your own membership base, that's good news for the community, that's good news for girls, that's good for people to know. I know that at your website you can find an awful lot more information about the AAUW, and I know that you do research papers.
Yes.
Give me a couple of examples of recent ones.
Most recently, we've published Solving the Equation, Women in Engineering and Computing, and The Simple Truth About the Gender Pay Gap.
Great.
Oh.
Those are just this year.
Wonderful.
We started reports back in 1991, and we've been issuing research reports.
That's great. So where
regularly.
can we find those on the web and find you?
At AAUW.org.
AAUW.org. That's great.
And from there, they can find the local chapter, right?
And all
Correct.
those things.
Well,
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
ladies.
you so much for joining. And
Thank you for having
it's
us.
wonderful to know that a play like this has captured a spirit of the very thing, the core values of the AAUW and why it has been around for 130 plus years.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
joining us
Thank
today
you.
on
Thank
InSight,
you.
and thank you for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.